We're moving into domestic policies. We're running out of time. I want to squeeze in a few more questions before your closing statements. This one, the world has recently seen and been focused on Ferguson, Missouri. What should Congress's role be, if anything, in preventing tragedies like the shooting of Michael Brown and the ensuing riots and violence that have plagued this town? Mark?
You know, I enjoy one of the best relationships I think that a member of Congress can enjoy with our law enforcement community in all 17 counties. That's Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, whatever they are. And I can tell you that if Washington, D.C. would operate the way that our law enforcement officers operate in this district, in terms of really working hand in glove with one another, we would be in a better state. That said, we need to trust the rule of law, and we need to trust our law enforcement officers. Let me tell you, we've got great sheriffs all the way around. I know all 17 of them. And so when we start to look at those sheriffs or police chiefs, let them make the best decisions. And what happens is each and every day, they risk their life, Frank. I talked to somebody the other day. For $12.70, a police officer is risking his life going out. And what we need to make sure is that we stand by them. You need to thank them. I encourage each one of you to thank those law enforcement officers that are out there. I stand with them, stand with their decisions, and quite frankly, I know that those kind of problems are not the kind of problems that we have in Western Carolina, and I'm thankful for that because of the integrity of the law enforcement officers that I have the privilege to serve.
Will you show up on the 22nd of September?
Please contain yourself.
22nd.
I can tell you're an undecided voter, aren't you?
Tom, you have 2 minutes for that question about Ferguson, Missouri.
It's unfortunate that racism is still alive and strong in the United States. Now that's a fact. I lived in California when Rodney King was beaten. I saw the film on it, and his head they were hitting him in the back of the head with a nightclub, and they were hitting him so hard his cheekbone was bouncing off the pavement. And when the officers involved in that melee were brought to trial, the jury sent a question to the judge and wanted him to define the word beating. Now that's the kind, and what it is, we have, yes, I stand behind the police officers. We have good police officers in most of the places in our country, but there are exceptions where racism is being practiced, and it has to be stopped. And if the local police won't do it, we need to send in the federal troops, federal authorities, not troops, federal authorities under the Civil Rights Act, and that's what we did for Rodney King, and we put those guys in jail. Now that's what needs to be done here from what I have seen. I was not there. I have not seen all the details, but I can tell you it has all of the trappings of racism, and I don't like it. And if you look at the makeup of the police force, there's only a tiny fraction of that police force in that area that's black. The vast majority are white, and the vast majority of citizens are black. I don't want racism on either side. I don't want reverse racism. But when these things come up, we always take a jaundiced look if we're white. We say, well, you know, if we look at it from the officer's point of view, or look at it from the guy that got his head slammed on the ground by that concrete, you know, it's a different thing. No, racism is racism. It's ugly, and we see it against Obama every day we live, and that is the sad truth.
Mark, you have a minute. Tom, they are involved in this case as well. Do you think that's appropriate?
You know, this is not an issue of condoning racism or not, because no one should condone racism. And I certainly don't. But for us, a group of 200 people here tonight, to try it based on headlines that we read, or based on what's reported on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox, depending on what you watch. For us to try that is convicting our law enforcement officers of a great tragedy that may or may not have been their fault. I went to a funeral of Jason Crisp, and he gave his life defending me. You know, it could have been different circumstances. But the hardest thing I had to do was console a wife, a mother, and 2 sons, you know, of the loss of their husband. So I'm not going to condemn them from 1,000 miles away. I'm going to stand by it.
With regard to Rodney King, I saw it on TV. I don't think, there was never any doubt in my mind as to what really happened there. I don't think anybody contested the fact. It was a question of what you thought did that constitute a beating. I've seen this over and over again. I saw it work in reverse in the case of O.J. Simpson. I watched that trial. I was working as a consultant at the time, and I watched that, and that was racism in reverse. But it's up to us as reasonable people to insist that race not be a factor in these events. And I think we have a duty. And I don't share Mark's position that we can just sit back and let the police do their job and everything will be all right. I don't agree with that.